Hi, my name is Gavin. This is another video for the Hickory Golfer's Handbook. So I've already done a few videos talking about obtaining some clubs and some bags, but what you might also be wanting is a stand for your bag. So whilst you're going around the course, you don't have to keep putting your clubs off the floor and bending down and picking them up. So I'll show you next what is the favoured solution by the vast majority of Hickory golfers. But first, I'm just going to talk about golf bag stands or the history of them. So right back in the early 1800s, golfers didn't actually use any bags at all. They would just carry their clubs under the crook of their arm, or more likely their caddy would. In about 1890, golf bags started becoming more common, but they were very simple affairs, just what we would call a drain pipe bag. But then two companies called Bussey and Osmond, they developed these actual, one might say, contraptions. So this one was made by Bussey, and this has got some original clubs in it, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. But basically how it works is, I'll try and demonstrate, is when you lift up this contraption off the floor, the handle via some levers pulls in these wooden legs. And similarly, when you put it down on the floor, much like a modern golf bag, the legs pop out, and you can immediately see that it's much the same as a lot of modern carry bags. Here we have a little pocket that you would keep your balls in and other little personal effects maybe. So anyway, that's the Bussey stand, and that's an original. This one was made by a company called Osmonds. This one is actually a replica. So a similar sort of affair, whereby, yeah, if I just push down there, you can see as it pushes down onto the floor, the middle section there slides up, and there's a clever lever arrangement under here, which I'll just show you briefly, which splays out the legs. So the main difference with this one really is it's slightly smaller, and it has, rather than a wooden handle, it has two pieces of leather. And you tend to find the originals, these leather handles tend to rot, and so they're quite fragile. But this one is a replica which can be used. So anyway, moving on to, if you're a Hickory golfer and you're looking for a bag stand, the most simple thing is something like this, which is two pieces of wood joined together on a hinge affair, and then when they open up, a piece of material or leather, I use leather on the ones I make, just actually means it'll only open up so far, like this. And then basically what you do, and whilst I'm trying to do this one-handed, let's see if we can be successful. Your bag of clubs, might have to just jiggle this phone a little bit, sits on it like that. And the only thing to watch out for sometimes is if the ground's slippy, sometimes the bottom of the bag will tend to slip away, but if the ground's, you know, pretty receptive, one might say, to the bottom of a golf bag, then that is a really easy solution for a golf bag stand. If you want one of these, you can drop me a message. I make them for not that much money, or you could of course attempt to make one yourself. But it's worth perhaps getting in touch with somebody or seeing someone else's just to get the dimensions right. And also you've got to use some pretty strong wood so that the legs won't buckle and break. And then the mode of operation is, once you've played your shot, and this is going to fall on the floor, of course, you lift up your bag and put it on your back. And this is your stand, which will conveniently fold up and will tuck into your golf bag. And off you go. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed this little video. And if you've got any questions, please drop me a line. Thanks for watching. Bye. A few minutes ago, I was talking about this Bussey bag stand, which dates round about 1900. And I mentioned these clubs, but I forgot to tell you a little bit about them. So I acquired these only a short time ago, and I purchased a batch of about 50 clubs. And the first club, or first one of these I noticed, was this, which has a brass sole plate, and you can see it's got a splice or a scared neck here, big long batch of whipping. The tip of the shaft would be there, and similarly you'd see a tip of the head there if the whipping wasn't wrapped around. Anyway, I immediately recognised this as being a sort of early-ish club, and I had a quick look at the name stamp, and it says James Paxton of Guernsey. Now, I was familiar with the name Paxton from Peter Paxton. Without checking, I don't know whether James was related, but I strongly suspect they were. And anyway, I just to sort of show you this club, it's quite deep in the face. It has a bit of a bulge to the face, okay? So I was thinking, well, this is a good example of a later gutter ball era club, and it has its original grip, big thick leather grip like this. And anyway, as I was going through my batch of clubs, I then pulled out one of these ones here, and oh look, J. Paxton, Guernsey, with an Anderson, or no, sorry, it's very similar to the Anderson of Anstruther. I must admit I didn't check, and it says warranted, hand forged. And this is a very meaty putter, or probably more accurately could be described as a putting cleek, because it's got quite a bit of loft on it. But anyway, it's only the length of a putter, and you can see it's quite crude in its form. So anyway, I immediately thought, well, it must be possibly from a matching club to the Brassy, and kept sorting through the clubs, and lo and behold, of course, what did I find? Another James Paxton of Guernsey with the same round warranted hand forged mark. So this is an iron, of course. So there we go, and onwards, and I think you can guess what's coming next. Another iron, James Paxton of Guernsey. This one's probably got the loft of about a mashie. Okay, and another one, James Paxton of Guernsey. So what do we have here? Right, well, I would suggest that this, or all these clubs, are, of course, a set. And I looked in a reference book and I saw that James Paxton was the pro at Guernsey in the year 1900. So this is very interesting because it gives us a snapshot of one particular year and what clubs actually, or what was being used during that year. Now, these would have been used with a gutta percha ball, solid gutta percha. This is an original. And this is one that I actually hit out on the course. And you can see it didn't respond really well, to be quite frank. it's like a mini explosion has taken place on one side of the ball, which of course that is exactly almost what's happened. So that was a bit of an experimental hit last summer. So you might be thinking, well, okay, it's not very many clubs, is it? No, absolutely not. But I would suggest that this could be one might say, a full set. And you think, well, where is this more lofted wedge type clubs, or, you know, a niblick, one might say, in Hickory golf terms? Well, actually, if you read up about golf in the Hickory ball period, so this is up to about 1899 when the Haskell was invented, but really gutties still kept being used up until 1902, 1903, 1904. Golfers actually played the game quite a lot along the ground, and the sort of lofted shots that we are very familiar with today, they didn't really play them. Or, like J.H. Taylor and Varden, up until the introduction of the rubber core ball, actually the most lofted club they used was a mashie. And if you've ever seen the famous painting by Clement Flowers, which shows James Braid, J.H. Taylor and Harry Varden at St Andrews, you may or may not have noticed that J.H. Taylor is holding his mashie in his hand, whereas Varden and Braid are holding woods. Now, that was done deliberately because J.H. Taylor was very famed or renowned for his mashie play, particularly with short approach shots. So he would take his mashie and he would lay the face quite open, and effectively he would cut the ball up and pitch it, play his pitching shots with his mashie. So that's why, anyway, a little bit of trivia, why J.H. Taylor is shown with his mashie in the famous triumvirate painting. So I think that is a brilliant snapshot in time that matches actually the exact sort of time period when this golf bag and with combined stand was being used. And you can just, for completeness, I'll just show you these big, thick sheepskin grips that, again, you would probably employ very much a two-handed palm grip. Of course, Varden was renowned for inventing the grip, which sort of overlapped a bit. But actually, there was another golfer who could equally claim that he invented it, and Varden just popularized it. But very much for most golfers, it was a two-handed palm grip. And equally, just another little bit of trivia, if you look at a lot of old photos, you can actually see them employing this grip. And what they also did, now I know I'm doing this with a putter, is they didn't put the thumb down the shaft. They actually wrapped, if they were right-handed of course, they would wrap the thumb actually round and under like this. And it's quite an education if you go out on the practice ground and try it. Initially, it feels really, really weird. But what it actually does, it allows you, or it certainly allows me, to cock my wrists quite a few more degrees. And so I think they, these guys, they knew what they were doing and why they were doing. And so they were getting more club head speed. That's my theory anyway. So I hope you enjoyed that little bit of extra video about these wonderful gutter ball era clubs made or sold by James Paxton of Guernsey, one of the Channel Islands. Thanks, bye.